human remains found in Montgomery County earlier this month have been confirmed as those of Felicia Johnson.
She's the 24-year-old San Diego woman who disappeared while visiting Houston in April of last year, and investigators are still looking for the man charged in her death. Those remains were found in Sam Houston National Forest back on February 7th.
Felicia Johnson was thousands of miles away from home when she stepped into the dark SUV. Her friends had warned her. Her father begged her to stay. But Felicia had her mind set. It was her birthday. She wanted more. More than long shifts and bills piling up. More than waiting tables for men who barely tipped. More than watching her 20s slip away. She wanted to feel alive again. Wanted to believe that life had something greater waiting for her. Somewhere out there. So when the message came in from Chris, she answered. She fixed her hair, slipped on her heels, and walked into the night, clutching nothing but a small purse and dreams too heavy for her to carry. What happened after that ride? No one would see coming. Her phone went dead. Her social media went silent. And the man who picked her up? Vanished. What followed was a frantic search that would stretch across counties, draining every ounce of hope from a family that refused to stop looking. Felicia's name became a hashtag. Her father became a fixture in Houston, handing out flyers in the sweltering sun, knocking on doors, begging for answers no one seemed to have. Police combed through records. Surveillance footage turned up. Nothing. Then came the discovery. Blood. So much blood, and a broken phone. Found near a deserted motel room in Houston. And inside that room? A chilling clue that would blow the case wide open. This isn't just the story of a missing girl. This is the story of a man who hunted her. A man who had done it before and planned to do it again. A man who operated in the shadows of dating apps and Instagram DMs, picking his targets carefully. A man who knew how to vanish without a trace until one mistake gave him away. The truth is buried in hours of digital footprints, fragments of deleted messages, and one cold, calculated plan that took a smiling woman from her birthday dinner to the edge of hell. And now, we're going to follow that trail, step by step. Because what happened to Felicia Johnson didn't start the night she went missing. It started long before that. And once you see it, once you hear it, you'll wonder how no one stopped him sooner. Felicia Johnson was 24 years old. Born and raised in San Diego, California, she carried the light of someone who still believed in possibility. Her smile was wide, her spirit even wider. She had plans. She journaled about them constantly. She wanted to be a model, a writer, a voice for girls like her, girls who had seen hard times and made it out anyway. Her mother used to say she had an old soul, and maybe she did. She'd grown up watching the people around her struggle, watching some fall through the cracks and others get back up again. Felicia wanted to be one of the ones who got back up. She had a younger sister who looked up to her, a father who adored her, and friends who swore she could light up any room just by walking into it. But like so many young women her age, she carried burdens that didn't show up in photos. Rent was due, bills were behind, dreams were expensive, and working part-time jobs while balancing auditions and rejection emails had begun to wear her down. She wasn't lost. She was just tired. And when you're tired, hope can look like a one-way ticket to somewhere new, to something better. That's why, in April of 2022, Felicia packed a bag and bought a ticket to Houston, Texas. She told her family it was for a modeling opportunity. There were whispers of a gig, maybe a photo shoot, maybe more. She didn't give all the details. She didn't want to worry anyone. And truthfully, she wasn't even sure what would come of it. She just knew she had to take a shot. Because if she didn't, she'd be stuck. Stuck in a cycle that was slowly killing her joy. So she got on that plane. With her hair done, her makeup flawless, and her heart wide open. It was April 13th, her birthday. She landed in Houston and checked into an intercontinental hotel. Alone. The plan was to meet someone, a man who had messaged her online. His name, according to the messages, was Chris. He claimed to be connected to a high-end modeling agency. Promised her big money, a chance to get seen, exposure. It sounded good. It sounded like what she'd been waiting for. But the details were vague. The communication was spotty. And the more she tried to confirm the gig, the more it seemed like smoke and mirrors. Still, she believed. Or maybe she wanted to believe. Because when someone offers you a way out, it's hard to say no, even when the warning signs start flashing. On the night of April 15th, Felicia left the hotel to meet Chris. She told a friend she was going out, said she'd be back soon. She never came back. Her friend tried to call, texted, no response. Hours passed, then a full day, then two. Her social media went dark. Her phone stopped pinging, and that's when the fear set in. Her father, Kevin Johnson, didn't waste time. When he couldn't reach his daughter, he got on a plane to Houston. He was determined to find her, determined to bring her home. He filed a missing persons report, spoke with hotel staff, tracked her steps. What he found was chilling. Felicia had requested a ride late that night, but it wasn't through Uber or Lyft. It was arranged privately. She got into a black car and disappeared. The Houston police began their investigation. Flyers went up. Local news stations covered the story. Tips trickled in, but nothing solid, until they found her phone. Smashed, bloodied, dumped off the side of the road near Bear Creek Pioneers Park, a quiet, wooded area far from downtown. That changed everything. Officers rushed to search the area. Then came the motel. A single room booked under a fake name. Inside, blood. DNA matched to Felicia. Alongside it, latex gloves, cleaning supplies, and a used towel. A search of her phone records led them to a name that hadn't come up before. Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo, 28 years old. A Nigerian national living in Houston. No criminal record. Quiet. Private. But the deeper they looked, the more they found. And what they uncovered would send chills through even the most seasoned detectives. Because Chukwuebuka wasn't just a random name. He was the man Felicia had been messaging. Chris was fake. The photos were fake. The job offer was fake. All of it was bait. A trap. And Felicia walked straight into it. What happened in that motel room? Still unclear. But the evidence spoke volumes. So did the text messages. The surveillance footage. The digital footprints that Chukwuebuka tried to erase. He was careful, but not careful enough. Now investigators had a name. A suspect. A crime scene. But no body. And without a body, the case became harder to prove. Felicia's father refused to give up. He held press conferences. Walked the streets of Houston with flyers in hand. Pleaded for help. For justice. For answers. Anything that could bring him closer to the truth about what happened to his daughter the night she vanished. And still, Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo remained free. Moving in silence. Watching. Waiting. Until the net around him began to tighten. And what police would eventually uncover on his phone, on his browser history, and in his own words, would reveal that Felicia Johnson wasn't his first target. And she might not have been the last. This case doesn't end here. It only gets darker. And the closer we get to the truth, the more disturbing it becomes. Because once you see what he planned, once you understand how calculated it all was, you'll realize this was never about opportunity. It was about control, about power, about a man who believed he could take what he wanted, whenever he wanted it. And Felicia Johnson was the one who paid the price. By the time Felicia's Uber pulled up to the Intercontinental Hotel, just off the Houston Galleria, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting a golden-pink hue over the city skyline. But behind that pretty twilight was a darkness already in motion, a predator lurking in plain sight. Felicia stepped out of the car with the same hopeful energy she left California with, naive to the fact that someone on the other side of that city wanted her exactly that way. Unaware, unprotected, and isolated. The hotel itself was upscale, boasting sleek architecture, polished floors, and suited doormen trained to smile at every passing guest. And for a moment, Felicia must have felt secure. After all, who would suspect danger here? In a place that gleamed with opulence? But what Felicia didn't know was that she had just walked into the last safe place she'd ever see. Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo had been watching. From the moment she texted him she was at the hotel, he was already steps ahead. He wasn't just improvising. No, he was orchestrating. Every movement, every message, Every misleading promise methodical. Cold. Calculated. Hours passed, and Felicia's room stayed untouched. Not a single bed wrinkle. No calls made from the hotel phone. And her presence at the Intercontinental? Practically non-existent. She hadn't checked in under her own name. There was no official reservation, almost as if she was never there. That same night, Chukwuebuka shows up, not at the hotel, but at a Walgreens, less than 2 miles away. Surveillance cameras catch him pacing the aisles, visibly anxious, as darting toward the entrance every few seconds. He wasn't there for snacks or toiletries. He walked out with one item, industrial-strength trash bags. Minutes later, he's seen again, this time at a gas station, filling up a red gas can, swiping his card with surgical calm, one hand in his pocket, the other tightening the cap. He doesn't say a word to the clerk, doesn't even glance at the pump once it clicks full. He just drives off. All the while, Felicia's phone had gone dark. No messages, no location updates, just a dead silence where her voice used to be. Back in California, her father, Kevin Johnson, was starting to feel the unease bloom in his chest. She hadn't called, hadn't posted anything, hadn't even responded to his last "be safe" message. At first, he tried to reason with himself. Maybe she's sleeping in. Maybe her phone died. Maybe she just needed space. But deep down, he knew better. By the next morning, Felicia was officially missing. Her belongings were found scattered, oddly. Her purse was discovered near Bear Creek Pioneers Park, almost 30 miles from the hotel. Inside, her ID, her credit cards, even her keys. But not her phone, and not her. To law enforcement, it didn't look like a simple disappearance. It looked like a cover-up. And once detectives got a hold of her digital records, everything started to unravel. Text messages between Felicia and Chukwuebuka exposed a chilling reality. He had told her to delete their conversation thread before meeting. He'd urged her to not share his name with anyone. And in the last known message from Felicia's phone, the tone shifted, almost hesitant, almost scared. Then there was the biggest red flag of all, his internet history. During that same 48-hour window, Chukwuebuka searched things that would make any homicide detective's blood run cold. How to delete phone location permanently, how to destroy DNA evidence, how to clean blood from carpet, Houston dumpsters near me. And do police track burner phones? That wasn't a man making a mistake. That was a man preparing for disposal. Detectives pieced together a disturbing trail of movement. Surveillance footage captured his car heading toward his previous place of residence on Windchase Boulevard, where police would later uncover what would become the most damning clue of all: blood. Traces of blood on the floor, on the carpet, on the tub, and it matched Felicia Johnson. But she was still missing. The tension in the case reached a breaking point as the Houston Police Department released a press statement urging anyone with information to come forward. Candlelight vigils were held back in San Diego, with family and friends praying that maybe, just maybe, she was still alive somewhere. But they knew the odds were turning. Kevin Johnson flew out to Houston himself, pacing the streets, posting flyers, pleading with reporters. The grief was starting to crack his voice, the hope thinning, because in his heart, he already feared the truth. And while Felicia's family searched, cried, and prayed, Chukwuebuka vanished. No longer in his apartment, no longer using his phone. He had slipped into the shadows, as if swallowed by the very city that once welcomed Felicia. But he wasn't gone, not forever. Because beneath all the lies and deception, beneath the digital footprints and dumped belongings, the truth was still there, waiting to be unearthed. And when it finally was, it would be far more horrific than anyone ever imagined. Now the question wasn't where Felicia was. It was what exactly had been done to her. Then, everything cracked open. It was April 20th, 2022, 10 days since Felicia Johnson was last seen alive. Her name had started to gain traction on social media. True crime forums buzzed with speculation. Was she trafficked? Was she kidnapped by a stranger? Had she simply run away? But no theory felt solid. No scenario explained the chilling digital silence, the bloody apartment, or the unsettling internet searches. until the forensics team returned their analysis. The blood found inside Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo's former apartment? It was a match, not just to Felicia's DNA, but to multiple blood spatter patterns across the bathroom walls, the tile floor, and the base of the shower drain. Patterns that indicated violence, sudden, deliberate, and ferocious. Patterns consistent with blunt force trauma. But there was more. Police executed a deeper search warrant into Chukwuebuka's phone and cloud backups. And that's when the digital footprint revealed the horrifying climax of what had really happened to Felicia Johnson. First, there was a deleted photo, not stored in the regular gallery, but recovered from a hidden folder. The image showed a hand. A woman's hand, limp, lifeless, lying in the trunk of a car. It was bruised and bloodied. There were cuts along the wrist. Investigators enhanced the photo, revealing a unique tattoo on the hand. It was Felicia's. Next came the most damning evidence yet, a series of deleted files from a burner email linked to Chukwuebuka. Drafts of unsent emails with subject lines like, "Dispose of body, rent storage unit without ID, and how to dissolve tissue with chemicals." Then, in his browser history, what does a decomposing body smell like? And how long before police traced blood? He had tried to bleach the carpet, but the blood seeped deeper. He'd attempted to scrub the walls, but the forensics team used luminol, lighting up the apartment like a crime scene from hell. Blue glow on the walls, blue on the ceiling, blue in the drain. And just when the detectives thought it couldn't get worse, they found the receipts. On April 16th, only one day after Felicia's disappearance, Chukwuebuka purchased a large commercial-grade kitchen knife from Walmart. Surveillance footage showed him standing in the checkout line, staring blankly ahead. That same night, his cell phone pinged near a remote area in South Houston, a place with no streetlights, no homes, and no cameras. Just woods. A few hours later, it pinged again. This time at a dumpster behind an abandoned gas station. When police searched that location days later, the contents of the dumpster had already been taken to a landfill. But among the remaining garbage, they found one haunting clue, a partially burned journal page with Felicia's handwriting. It was smeared, but legible. It read, "I just want to be seen. I want to feel real. I want to feel loved." That page would later break her father. Meanwhile, the press caught wind of the case. The story exploded. But Chukwuebuka? Still nowhere. He had gone underground. Police discovered he'd emptied his bank account, dumped his phone, and was using prepaid cards to travel. He was no longer in his car. He was using rideshare apps, paying in cash. The manhunt spanned multiple states. But while he ran, the Houston Homicide Division kept pushing. On May 13th, they finally caught the break they needed. Chukwuebuka had briefly contacted a former roommate in a cryptic email. "Tell my family I'm sorry," he wrote. "I didn't mean to do this. I just lost control." She said something, and I snapped. Police traced the IP address. He was hiding in a rundown motel near Highway 6, under a false name, using a fake ID. When the SWAT team moved in, he didn't resist. Didn't say a word. Just stared, dead-eyed, as they cuffed him and hauled him into the back of a patrol vehicle. Back at the station, investigators were hoping for a confession. But Chukwuebuka didn't speak. Not about Felicia. Not about the blood. Not about the burned journal page, or the knife, or the bleach. He just asked one question. "Will I still get the death penalty if there's no body?" That sent a chill through the room. Even without a body, the evidence was overwhelming. The DA moved forward with a murder charge. The prosecution laid out their case in a press conference, calling it one of the most premeditated, heinous acts of violence they'd seen in years. But the courtroom wouldn't bring comfort. Not to Felicia's father. Not to her friends. Because while Chukwuebuka sat behind bulletproof glass, stone-faced and cold, one truth haunted everyone in that courtroom. Felicia's body had still never been found. It was a murder without a grave. A girl full of dreams. A father with no daughter. A case with no closure. And somewhere out there, her remains were still waiting to be discovered. But one thing was certain: the man who took her life would never walk free again. The courtroom had gone silent. Not because of the evidence, though it was damning. Not because of the grisly details that had been laid bare for the world to hear. But because of one cruel, undeniable fact. Felicia Johnson's body had never been found. In that silence, it was deafening. The trial of Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo began in early 2023. Prosecutors approached it as a no-body homicide. A case that leaned entirely on forensics, digital footprints, and a narrative built from pieces of a nightmare. But this wasn't just about proving someone died. It was about proving a person planned, executed, and erased another human being from existence, and then tried to keep living like it never happened. The district attorney's office came prepared. They laid out every strand of evidence with surgical precision. The blood, Felicia's DNA, was found in multiple areas of Chukwuebuka's bathroom. Underneath the tile, inside the drain, on the shower curtain, on a cracked phone case wedged between the toilet and the wall. The luminol lit it up like a horror scene, one the jury couldn't unsee. Then came the surveillance footage. Felicia getting into the car that night, the Walmart receipt, and video showing Chukwuebuka purchasing a knife. The Uber logs, the deleted messages, the burner phone, the twisted internet searches. How to destroy DNA, how long does blood last on tile, and the chilling draft email. I didn't mean to do this. But the prosecution didn't stop there. They called on a forensic pathologist to walk the jury through the likely sequence of events. How Felicia was most likely struck from behind, how she bled out in the bathtub, and how her killer may have attempted to dismember or conceal her remains using household chemicals. The jury sat frozen, some wiping away tears. Others unable to look at the photographs displayed on the screen. On the back, she had written, in clumsy crayon handwriting, "I love you, Daddy. I'm your little star." He looked at the jury and said, "That star was taken from me. I don't have a grave. I don't have ashes. I don't have a place to say goodbye. All I have are questions and nightmares." The defense tried to argue that Felicia could still be alive, that maybe she fled, maybe she ran, maybe the blood in the apartment came from something else. But their argument fell flat, like a lie too exhausted to pretend anymore, because the truth had already soaked through the walls. On the final day of testimony, the jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. They returned a unanimous verdict, guilty of murder. And in that moment, the air shifted. But justice is never as clean as a verdict. It's not swift. It doesn't erase grief. It doesn't bring back the dead. Felicia's family broke down outside the courthouse, holding each other, clutching photos, whispering her name like a prayer. Her father didn't celebrate. He didn't smile. He only said, "I hope she knows I never stopped looking for her." The judge sentenced Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He showed no emotion, no tears, no apology. He stared blankly ahead, as if none of this had ever touched him, as if the weight of a life stolen didn't even register. But his silence spoke volumes. He would never say what he did with Felicia's body, never say where he left her, never give her family the peace they begged for. And so, the aftermath settled in like fog. For weeks, volunteers returned to that wooded area in South Houston. They walked through the brush with dogs and drones, calling her name even though they knew she wouldn't answer. They searched landfills, drained creeks, hiked miles of bayou. But they never found her. Felicia Johnson's story became more than a case. It became a symbol, a tragic reminder of how predators hide in plain sight, of how digital connections can become death traps, of how Black women, especially those working in the margins, as dancers, as escorts, as dreamers, often vanish without the world blinking twice. Her name began appearing on flyers, in protests, in documentaries. Activists called out the initial delay in police response, how her case didn't make headlines for weeks, how if she'd been white, wealthy, or well-connected, the urgency might have been different. A scholarship was created in her honor at a local community college, awarded to women pursuing careers in mental health and crisis intervention. Her father funded the first one himself, but he still visits Houston once a month. Quietly, without media, he drives past that strip club. He walks the edge of the woods. He leaves flowers near the old dumpster site, and he carries her photo in his wallet. He says it's the only way he feels close to her. Meanwhile, in a concrete cell, Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo rots. No visitors, no freedom. Just a name on a case file, and a legacy of horror he can never wash away. And Felicia? Felicia is still out there, somewhere beneath the dirt, or the water, or the silence, waiting to be found, waiting to come home. Because even after the verdict, this story is not over. What do you think happened to Felicia's body? Was justice truly served, or will the truth remain buried forever? Do you believe Chukwuebuka Nwoobodo will ever reveal what happened to her? Or is there more to this story that we're still missing? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on more deep dives into the most chilling true crime cases. Hit that like button if you believe in justice and share this story to keep Felicia's name alive. Remember, the search for truth doesn't end here. Stay vigilant, stay aware, and always question what's right in front of you.